This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, the recording has started. Just a minute, I'm getting a call from Institute. Yeah, hi. Yeah, does my voice is audible, guys?
Yes, you're audible.
Hello? Okay, okay.
Yes.
Because I got a
Yes, we can
call
hear
that
you.
my okay, yeah. So hi Pallavi, welcome to the
Hi, hi,
session.
sir.
Yeah,
Hi.
hi. So today is your first day or you have already joined this session?
No, this is my first day.
Okay, got it. Okay, so actually we were discussing about the defects in the software testing. So now like we are just seeing the root cause analysis of the defect. So to give a background, right? So defect is nothing but so testing is nothing but to verify if the software is working as expected or not. So if the software is not working as expected, right? So if the actual and expected behavior is varies, then the particular observation will be calling it as a defect. So now there are like various methods to find the root cause analysis of the defect. So we are just discussing that one by one. So I just started with the Pareto chart. So this is a simple example like that illustrate the Pareto chart analysis of the hotel management application. So let's say like in the hotel management application, like they need to like let's say if a owner or else the higher management people, right, if they need to identify like why the hotel is getting negative reviews or why what is the customer count is gradually reduced on day by day basis, right? So let's say if they need to analyze these kind of issues, right, so definitely like these kind of parental analysis chart will be helpful to understand the root causes of the issue. So how they have derived that root cause is like, so first they'll be having complaints, right? So from the service portal or else from the reviews, they are just taking the complaints one by one and they are like segregating the complaints. So let's say if a complaint is related to some order of the room, right? So that time like they'll be like cumulatively add those complaints. So basically they'll just categorizing the uh, issues into the different topics and then they are just cumulatively adding the count of the topics. So let's say if they do this analysis for the period of 1 month or 2 month or 1 year, right? So at least they'll have some pictorial representation of the data. So with those data, right, they can actually understand like what went bad, and with this analysis, so definitely it will be helpful for them to take the corrective action and then they can increase the productivity. So this is a very basic example of the hotel management system. So unlike this in a software testing, right? So let's say we are testing an application and in that application, right, let's say if you are getting like n number of defects, so what we'll be doing is like we'll be like segregating the defect into like UI issue. Like UI issues nothing but from that user interface, right? Which we all like in yesterday's meeting I already told you about the what is user interface. So the user interface is nothing but that whatever the application we are seeing in our web browser, right? So that is nothing but a user interface. In the industry people used to tell like that. So like let's say whatever the issue we are getting in user interface, right, that like we can categorize that as a single entity, and then like that API issues, database issues, and then like if there is issue with the environment, right? So something like that we can categorize the issue, and then based on that analysis, right, we can able to come to conclusion like where actually the failure is happening, and then we can take the preventive action. So basically like this whatever I discussed, right, that is not related with this chart, but I guess you people can able to correlate. If not, please tell me, I'll try to explain more. If you are clear with Pareto analysis, right, then we can move on to the next topic. So does anyone have any questions with respect to understanding of the Pareto analysis principle? Yeah, please confirm like orally, because in chat if you post also like I couldn't able to see it. Please confirm orally so we can move on to the next topic.
Yeah, this is clear.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. So we'll move on to the next topic. So our next one is a fishbone diagram. Okay. So as this okay, first I'll first explain this slide. So then we'll move on to the previous one. So fishbone technique, right? So it's also called as a cause and the effect diagram. So basically, if you see this pictorial representation, right, it just appear like a fishbone, right? So that's why like it's called as a fishbone diagram, fishbone technique. So basically, let's say if some problem arises, right? So we need to identify the causes, and then like what are the effect of these causes, right? So if we able to like if we able to like differentiate in this particular kind of diagrammatic technique, right, so we can easily identify the root cause of the issue. Okay, that's what this technique says. So let's say if in this pictorial representation, let's say the problem is like obesity. Okay, let's say a person got obesity, and if we need to diagnose the root cause of the issue, right, so they are just pointing out the various causes. So what are the causes is lack of the physical activity, that might be one cause, and then poor diet is might be one cause, and genetics might be the causes, and medical reasons also might be the causes, right? So they have segregated into like four various causes. So then they are just bringing down the effect of the causes. So because lack of physical activity is the cause, and what and all are the effects, like too much sitting at the desk, like preferring vehicles rather than walking, watching TV for relaxation, and then for poor diet, right, eating large portion, like taking more amount of carbohydrate diet, right? So that might be like a number of reasons, right? So first, they initially will identify the problem statement, and then the possible cause and the effect, right, we are just noting out in the fishbone technique, like fishbone skeleton kind of uh, way. So and then whichever the and then right, whichever the like cause and effect, right, which actually shoots that problem condition, right, we can pick that. So in this way it will be very helpful for us to identify the root cause of the issue. Because let's say if a person get like obesity, right, there might be a cause like he is having a very good physical activity, and he is following a proper diet, and genetically like in their family, right, everyone will be lean and they won't be having obesity. Okay, but because of some previous surgery or some medical reason, right, he might have got it. So by because so for that particular person, right, the other three cause and effect won't be effective, but whereas this medical reason will be effective. So again it depends on the problem statement and then the condition, right, where it is applied to that condition and that environment where it is occurring, right, we can able to find out the correct solution. So this is like one technique to find the root cause of the issue. Okay, so this is like one example. So if we go to the other thing, right, so there is a quality problem. So let's say uh, we have some let's say we are let's say a person is running some garment factory, and in that particular garment, right, they are facing a quality problem, and that is reported by the customer. So in fishbone diagram technique, right, how they will be identifying it. So the problem statement is the quality problem. So what and all the causes might be the measurement of the, because of the inaccurate measurement as well, right, people can say it is a quality problem, right? And then because of the might be the human errors, like they would have like a lack of concentration, and they won't be having the skill to perform the job, might be the cases. And then machines, maybe the machines have some problem, and that may be causing the, that may be damaging the garments as well, right, that might be the reason. And then the process, maybe the dyeing process, or else like design process, right, anything might have issue. Okay, so material and environmental, right, so these are like various causes. And then like once the problem statement arises, right, will be like we need to we need to list out the various causes and then effect in the fishbone skeleton kind of pictorial manner. So after that, like it will lead a way to find the root cause of the issue. So this is what fishbone this is how we should find a root cause using the fishbone diagram. Okay, so does anyone clear with this particular approach, or if you have any question, right, please feel free to ask me.
Excuse me, Dinesh. I have one doubt. As a tester, we'll get the bug or error, right? So
Correct.
are we supposed to provide the possible causes as well as a tester?
Yeah, definitely. And
Okay.
because as a tester, right, we won't be getting any bug.
Hmm.
It's our duty to find a bug or the defect, right? So let's say,
Yeah.
like as a tester, right? Let's say if I found a defect, okay. So what would be the next step? So I need to raise the defect to the proper like proper channel, okay. So let's say if a
Correct.
defect is like, okay, if I give a simple example, so there is one application XYZ. So let me again reiterate with that. So there is one application like Flipkart Home. Sorry, wait just a minute. Maybe I'll. Okay, let's take a simple example of the Facebook homepage. Oh my God. Okay, so let's say this is a application. So like as a tester, right now I need to like test this particular application. So let's say if I'm entering an invalid username and password, right? 1 minute, I'll just use the incognito. Okay, so this is an application. So let's say, right, if I am entering the invalid username and password, right, so definitely it should throw me the error message. So this is the problem statement. Okay, so as a tester, if you find that while entering the invalid, let's assume a scenario, right, you are entering the invalid username and password, but still the application is permitting you to log into the application. Okay, so as a tester, now you can come to conclusion, right, a conclusion that, so once the username and password is entered, then the API need to send a call to the server, and server should validate if the combination is matching, and if it is matching, then only like it should allow us to log in. If not, right, it shouldn't allow us to log in. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's say in this case, as a tester, it's your duty to like while raising a defect, right, you'll just raise like, so the application is not restricting application is not restricting the uh, entry of the user for the invalid username password combination, something like that. You'll be like giving the title
Correct.
to that particular issue. So in that, right,
Okay. Yeah.
you need to like add the description like about the correct incident, like what is actually happening. So as a tester, it's your duty to find it. So let's say why I'm telling is like, let's say if there is some simple example, like you are like trying to launch this application, but directly you are getting the 500 internal server error. Okay, so in this case, if you assign the, see, let's say I just change the URL. Let's assume a case, right? So you are just accessing the correct application, but you are getting something like the site cannot be reached. So now, as a tester, right, it's your duty to assign the bug to the correct team. So let's say if the site is not reached, right? So it might, so then it leads like DevOps is the correct person who like whose duty is to like what is that, maintain the site, right? So if the environmental is if the server is down, or if the environmental is having some issue, right, so those time developers is not a correct person to fix it, so DevOps is the correct person to fix it. Okay, so in this case, if these kind of issue are observed, then while raising a issue, right, you need to assign it to the proper DevOps people, so then only it will be addressed like addressed soon. If not, right, let's say you raise some ticket and assign it to developer, and if it is not in his bucket, right, then he won't be responding it properly. So because of that, right, the defect fix take much time, and it leads to delay in like testing timeline, right? So that is what that is how it works. I could you understand that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Got it. Got it. Thank you.
yeah, okay.
What's the difference between DevOps and developers? Both are different?
Yeah. So basically, like in the first, like second day, right, while explaining about the software development life cycle, right, I told you like if it is a like proper Scrum team, right?
Mhm.
So we have a combination of the business analyst, and then like architects, then testers, developers, and the DevOps. So developers are the person like who'll be like developing the application using the Java or the Python, like coding that backend development, right? So those things will be taken care by them. but DevOps are the person who's responsible for the environmental. So let's say you are using the HTTP, right? So those like the server maintenance and like deploying the code, like developers, they will be developing the code in the jar file, and jar file will be shared to the DevOps people, and it's duty of the DevOps people to what is that, to process the jar files, right, and then to pull it to the environmental, right. So those things will be taken care by them. So like
Okay.
let's say if you're using some application, right, so the application, it's a duty of DevOps to ensure that the application is deployed properly and it is working fine, right. So that is the duty of DevOps, whereas the developer duty is to code and give it to the DevOps. Got it?
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, this is how it works. So slowly, like while going on with the session, right, you'll slowly understand it, but as of now you just have in mind like what is what. So slowly you'll get the context. Okay, so we'll go to the next technique. So the next technique is like 5 why technique. Okay, 5 why analysis technique. So let's say if you are getting a problem, right? So until and otherwise, just keep asking the question why until and otherwise, like we get the answer for it. So that is what 5 why technique is. Let's say if a guy, right, he is like rushing to office and he caught with the police cop. Okay, that he is like riding the bike in like high speed. Okay, so in this case, right, so now we need to find like 5 why analysis, like why the guy got caught, right. So maybe by using the so it's nothing but to find the root cause of the issue, like why he is like rushing in the bike. So if you ask the first why, right, so he is rushing because he is late to office. So okay, so then next why, like if he ask the next why, right, so why he is late to office, because he got up late, so he don't have time to get ready, so that's why he is getting late. So then the next question is like why he got up late. So then the answer would be like he didn't get up early. So why he didn't get up early, because his alarm didn't work, right. So then if he has the next why, like why it didn't work, then there might be a cost, like because of the dead batteries or some issue, right, it didn't work. So then why the alarm didn't work, there might be a cost, like he forgot to replace the batteries. So now the root cause of the issue is like, so why he is rushing to office, the root cause is like because he forgot to change the battery of the alarm. Okay, so this is what the 5 why analysis technique is. If we keep asking what when how why questions to the particular problem, right, so finally like we can able to find the root cause of the issue. So this is what this analysis say. Okay, so this is also a one technique to find the root cause. So this is like another problem statement. So the client refused to pay the progress payment. So let's say there is one client, but the client is refusing to pay the payment. So now we need to find like why client is refusing. So at high level, right, if you see first time why client is refusing, because we didn't completed the activity, that's why client is not giving the payment. So why we are late, because the activity took like longer time than expected. Why the activity took longer time, because we don't have we didn't follow the proper procedure, that's why like it took more time. So why we didn't follow the proper procedure, because we didn't purchase on time, because while purchasing the material itself, right, it was we got it late. So then why we didn't got it on time, because we didn't analyze the work schedule, because while purchasing that particular like work, right, maybe while getting some work from client, right, we didn't like estimated about the work schedule. That time we were just curious that we should get a project from the client, but uh, once the problem arises, right, that time while analyzing the root cause, we found that because while buying the project we didn't estimated about the work schedule, that's why we got this problem now. So in forthcoming purchases from the client, right, so we will be taking this as a lesson, and then while purchasing, like we'll be like giving some buffer time, or will be like giving some proper work schedule, so that this can be avoided. So this is how 5 why analysis technique will be helpful. So if anyone have any doubts, right, please feel free to ask, or else if you give confirmation, I'll move on to the next slide. Hello.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, we are good.
Yeah, hi, Dinesh.
Hi. Yeah, hi.
Dinesh, I have a question on the defect part. So
Okay, so
sometimes actually we are facing one issue like some exception, right?
mm-hmm.
So So the exception are going on defect or not? Like
So mhm.
let's suppose I'm clicking on pop-up or something like button. So sometimes I'm
Okay.
getting some exception. So that all the exceptions should be detect or not. That I want to
If
know.
you please tell me like what exception you are getting, right? I can able to help you.
Exception means it's like something it is showing like you have to enter something like some message.
Yeah, correct. So definitely, right? Whatever exceptions we are getting, right? That's actually defect, right? So as a tester, we have a full
Mhm.
rights to like whatever we see, like as a tester, right? Whatever we see or feel like if it is wrong, right? So we can raise it as a defect. We can have the full rights to do that. Let's say in the UI, right? If there is some spelling mistake, even for that as well, like we can raise a defect that this name should be corrected. So definitely, if the exceptions are coming, right? So there
Mhm.
might be a cause like we need to like identify like why it is coming. So if it is because of some valid reason, right? So then we can what is it raise it as a issue. In some cases, right, might be because of the environmental parameters or as the test data parameters also we'll be getting that. So in those cases we can flag that as an intermittent issue, like some issue, right, we'll be getting
Yeah, right.
full time and some, yeah. So those things, even
Mhm.
for those kind of thing, right, you can mark it as an intermittent issue and then you can raise it to the developers. So usually in production and all, right, we'll be identifying those kind of issue. So when I mean production, I guess you'll production is nothing but the environment which will be accessible worldwide, right? So if some
Yeah.
as I told about the environment as in yesterday's session, like we have a development environment, testing environment, and then the production environment. So in a like in if it is if we are using the development or the testing environment, so only for only the people who have the project access, right? So they only can able to access that environment. Whereas if the environmental is hosted into production, like worldwide, whoever is having the URL, they can able to access that website, right? In some cases in the production as well we'll be getting the intermittent issue. So those issue, right, sometimes we'll record those issues and then like we'll be raising it as a defect as well. So yeah, coming back to your
Okay.
question, even if it is an exception, right, that will be counted as a defect.
Okay then. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, fine. Yeah, yeah, it's actually a very good question, like keep asking these kind of question, right, so that we can have more clarity on the process. Okay, so the next, so as of now we are covered three techniques. One is like a Pareto chart analysis technique, then the 5 Y technique and the fishbone technique. We are done with that. So now I'm moving on to the scatter diagram technique. Okay. So the scatter diagram is nothing but a graph in which value of two variables are plotted along the two axes. So let's say I this is like scatter diagram chart, right, to find the car age or the price. Okay. So let's say what is the inference from this chart is like as the age of a car is increasing, the price is getting decreased. Okay. So this inference how we are getting is like using the scatter diagram. So how we are plotting the scatter diagram on the x-axis and y-axis, we are just plotting the parameters. So and that results in revealing the correlation present. Okay, so let's say if it is a new car, we can sell it for 4,000 bucks. If it is a old car, then it's worth only for like zero in the value in between 0 to 1,000 bucks. So this is how, right? So how they have arrived this inference is like by getting the market standard of the car age versus price data, right? They got some data and they have plotted it in a graph and then they got it. So something like this. Okay. So if you like in testing, right? So let's say how we can correlate with testing is like, let's say if some particular application, right, if it is having n number of defects, maybe we can plot graph with respect to defect and then like environment. Okay. uh, let's say a defect and then like days. So let's say initial days of the project, right? So once we are kickstarting the testing, those time the number of defects will be high. Whereas at last stage, right, let's say if you are at end of testing, if we see there, right, the number of defects will be gradually decreased. So it means like initially tester has found a number of defects and it has been like tested and then fixed by the developers. So after that defect count will be gradually increased, right? So something this kind of inference we can get it from the scatter diagram. So unlike that, if you are getting some root, like if you are getting some defects, right, by using this we can able to find the root causes by using these techniques. So that is what it is. So this is like another example, where the speed, like the vehicle fuel consumption, right, with respect to mileage or whatever it is plotted. So in the like speed is plotted along the x-axis and the fuel consumption is plotted along the y-axis. So what is the inference from this particular scatter diagram is like, so when we are maintaining a standard speed, right? Let's say from 30 kilometer per hour to 100 kilometer per hour, that time we can expect a good mileage. Whereas if you are driving at very low speed, or else if you are driving at a rash speed, so those time the mileage is not expected. So this is what the inference from this diagram. If anyone have any question, right, please feel free to ask, or else I can move on to next slide.
Yeah, I have a question. But how this car age and price is all related to the testing?
Okay, got it. Okay, so let's say, right, how you can see is like, um so this is a scatter diagram, right? So where just a minute, let me think this. Yeah, it's actually a nice question. Okay, so hmm. Okay, so if we take a simple example, right? I work for a like gaming company, right? So nothing but the scientific games. So in that, like we were working for the casino gaming. Okay, so let's say, right, in casino gaming, so the lobby, like it is kind of a gambling online betting and the gambling games. So it's like the gambling game will be like open for a like certain duration only. Okay, so at those certain duration, right, we can expect like n number of players are joining, because like they'll be getting the jackpot or some huge win amount, right? So for that, people will be like in some like at some point of time, right, we can expect like the count of people who is joining that lobby, right, which will be more than expected. Okay, so in these cases, like we need to like plan the server, we need to like what is the space for that, the free space for that application, right, at server level should be planned accordingly. So then only like it will handle that what is that ad hoc entry of the persons, right? So let's say if an application is designed, right, so it might be designed with some expectation. So let's say the basic expectation is like 50% will be using this particular application, and based on that it will be defined, it will be designed by the developers. So let's say if the usage is gradually increased, and instead of 50, right, 500 persons are using, means then the same application, right, we may experience the slowness or those issue we'll be facing. So usually in IRCTC websites and all, right, usually at train ticket booking, right, usually when the Tatkal ticket opens, so that time you will be experiencing the slowness than the usual time, right? So that is because that environmental performance is not handled properly by the developers. That is why we are getting that issues, because the peak load, right, it hits at that point, and whatever the infrastructure we have for that particular application, right, that is not able to handle the peak load. That is the issue why the slowness occurs. So by plotting that number of, so let's say, right, let's say if the IRCTC, right, let's say a complaint is raised, that on that complaint they shows like usually like the application is very slow. That is what the complaint the customer has raised it. So now, right, that is like given to the, like usually if it is a slow, right, that will be raised as a defect and that will be assigned to the developers. So now the developers got some issue. Okay, so the application is slow, but they tell like while we are testing that application is fast, because usually when a developer is testing, right, usually 1 or 2% will be testing, and that time like they won't be experiencing the slowness, because when 1 or 2% is using that slowness will be handled properly. Okay, so when the ticket is given to the testing people, right, to find the root cause, so actually here, right, the normal testing, right, it won't with that normal manual testing process we won't able to find out the actual root cause. So in this case, like we need to take the server data for the 1 month. Let's say if I'm a tester and I have given the activity, right, to find like why we are experiencing the slowness. So that time what I'll be doing is like I'll take a data from the server. So let's say in the data, right, so hardly how many people are like using this application. Let's say I'm taking that kind of data, right? So if I'm taking those kind of data and if I'm plotting with the graph, right, maybe at a time of like 10 to 11 o'clock, I can see like hundreds of users or millions or thousands of users are logging and booking the ticket, right? So I can infer that. So then with my technical knowledge, maybe I can infer that only at this time, like we can see like number of persons, what is that, usage is more. So when we see where technically if we have a good technical knowledge on that application, right, we can infer that. So that is a theoretical booking time. So at that time, like the people usage is more, so in order to mitigate it, we should what is that, we should increase the infrastructure of the application. So that is what the inference of this particular ticket. Okay, so basically like with this example, right, basically the root cause of the issue will be found out if we use these kind of techniques. So that is how it works with respect to testing. So now whatever the example I given, right, that does it answer your question, or you still need?
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, good.
Okay, got it. So you got it, right? So basically if you are getting some issue, right, this is like one technique to find out like the root cause of the issue. So these are all like theoretical topics, like these five techniques are followed predominantly to find the root cause of the issue. So then it's our wish to choose which technique we need. Okay, yeah, shall I move on to next topic?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sure. Okay, so this one is like failure mode effect analysis. Okay, so basically, so let's say, right, so like if you are testing a project, if you are testing a product, it doesn't mean like we can avoid the defect 100 percentage. So though if a product is thoroughly tested, we may expect a defect in that application, because practically speaking 100 percentage testing is not possible. Okay, just have that in mind. So though if we did not find a defect, right, it doesn't mean that that product is bug free or the defect free. There might be a defect, but we may what is a fail to find that defect. Okay, so until and otherwise it arises, it's okay, but once it arises, a defect is a failure. Okay, so now let's say if such failure has happened, so now this is like other technique like failure mode effect analysis. So it's like learning from mistake, right? So using this particular analysis technique, right, we can able to find the root cause of the issue. So okay, so let's say the problem statement is like there is one guy, so Mr. X is like 5 minutes late to office. Okay, using this failure mode effect analysis, right, how he is finding the root cause, or else how he is finding a process to change, right? So those things we'll see. So let's say a guy is late to office every day. So now this is the failure mode, this is the failure reason, like he is like going office daily late, because of that he is getting a salary cut, let's assume. Okay, so now the effect, so failure is like is late to office. What is the effect of the failure? Like he is getting 1 hour salary, like for every, like even if he is 5 minutes late, right, he get a 1 hour salary cut. So if because if we see, right, like 5 or 10 years back, right, when we don't have proper like usage of the mobile phones, or when we don't have that much like electronic facilities, right, so those time usually like people will be facing this problem, right? So let's say those time who are working for a private concern, like they should be sharp to office. If they are late, right, they'll get a salary cut usually. Like we may hear these kind of things, right, but now currently like these kind of processes are obsolete, but let's assume this is the scenario. So now we got the failure and the effect, right? So now the failure mode effect analysis, right? So now in the analysis part, what we are doing, we need to find the potential cause of the failure. So again, right, so what is the cause? He is not getting up earlier. So then like current process control version, so he's not getting up earlier means it doesn't have any control, right? It's again with person, he should have that ability, and it's not controllable. If he is getting sleep, he will be sleeping, right? So this is like one cause. So what is the next cause? He is depending on like his family members to what is it, to help him to wake up early. But that time maybe because of some reason his family members might have slept and they have failed to like remind him to woke up, right? So this might be the like second cause, but that also like don't have any control, right? So now what would be the recommended action? So the recommended action is like the usage of the proper like devices, let's say that alarm device or whatever it is, right? They should have the proper usage of that application, sorry, proper usage of that particular electronic devices, so it will be helping them to what is that, to be early to office every day. So this is how the failure mode effect analysis works. Let's say if some production incident come, right, we should find out the effect of the incident and then the various possible causes of the incident, and we should come up with some analysis, or is what we learn from this incident, right? So those things we should come up, and with that analysis like that we should learn as that as a lesson, and with that lesson we'll be avoiding the further what is that, problem statements. So so does anyone have any question with this particular analysis method?
No.
Are you clear with this?
No.
Okay. And frankly speaking guys, these like these techniques, right, so definitely like let's say if you are working for a project, right, so definitely like on daily basis like we won't be seeing these techniques. So hardly out of this 8 years, right, I never what is that, refresh these topics. Now for this session only, like I'm just going back to the topic and then I'm revising. Okay, so these all are mainly needed for the interview perspective. So let's say if you're appearing for the manual testing interview, right, just for the sake of clearing the interview, like these topics and understanding of the topics will be really helpful for you. Okay, so just even if you couldn't remember all these 5 topics, right, just familiarize with at least 3 topics. Let's say in the interview, if the panel, if you ask like how will you find the root cause of the issue, right? So that time you should be able to answer like by using the Pareto chart, pie chart, scatter, fishbone techniques, we can able to find the root cause of the issue. So you should, for these things only, like these all are helpful. But this knowledge will be definitely helpful for you, like if you're working like this knowledge, right, how to like find the root causes, right, definitely this knowledge will be helpful. But it won't be aiding us directly. Like if we have the thorough knowledge on the process, right, definitely that will be helpful. Okay, are you clear with this 5 root cause analysis, right? Are you clear with these 5 techniques? If you have any doubts, right, please feel free to ask me.
Yes, it's clear.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's clear.
great. Yeah, thank you for the confirmation. So now, right, we'll see the last topic of the today's session, and this is also like an important one. Yeah. So, what are the 7 testing principles? Okay. So, principle 1, the testing show the presence of the defects. As I told, right. So, uh, like if you are testing a particular software, right, so then the testing can that the defects are present or not, but the testing cannot prove that there are no defects. Okay, so the testing, it reduces the probability of the undiscovered defects remaining in the software, but even if no defects are found, it's not the proof of correctness. You got the context, right? So what I mean is like the testing shows the presence of defects. So like if you are testing a software, so then definitely like we'll be finding the defects in the software. On the other hand, let's say if we fail to find a defect, right, it doesn't mean like the software is bug free or the defect free. So it means that the testing, like the testing, though if you are doing a testing, we can't 100% assure that the software is a defect free, because it might have some defect that might be undiscovered, or that might be that might not be arises in the future. Okay, but testing a software doesn't mean that that software is a defect free. It just because we couldn't find it doesn't mean that it has no bugs. Okay, are you clear with this first line?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, let's go on to the next point. So the exhaustive testing is not possible. Okay, so what does it means? Like the testing everything, right? all the permutation and combinations is not possible. Okay, so let's say if there is one okay, let's say we developed one calculator application. So let's say if we, practically, right, testing all the permutation and combination of the numbers with that calculator application, it's not possible, right? So that is what they was about to say, the exhaustive testing is not possible. Exhaustive testing means the all combination of the inputs and the preconditions, because practically it's not feasible to test all the conditions, right? So for that, actually in forthcoming sections we have like how to deal with this, right? We have like several testing techniques, like how to take care of testing, right? So that is there, we'll discuss that later. But this is a principle, like exhaustive testing is not at all possible, like nothing but what is the complete testing of all the permutation and the combination is not possible. So that is like a proven fact and everyone should know it before getting into the testing. Okay, so then the next point is like a yearly testing. As I told, to find the defects yearly, the testing activity shall be started as early as possible in the software. Okay, so as I told, if a defect, like the defect, right, it's inversely proportional to the cost and the time of the project timelines. So if a defect is found at the early stage, then we can save the cost and time. If a defect is found at the later stage, then it leads to the what is risk of the cost and time for that particular project. So what is this third principle is like we should start the testing as early as possible, because we can find the failures early and then we can avoid it. So that is what the next principle is. Okay, then the next point is like the defect clustering. Okay, so what does anyone has any guesses on this particular point? What is defect clustering? Feel free to discuss, like from this title, right? What's your understanding? No guesses? Hello? Okay. Okay. What does this statement, like fourth point, shows is like, so defect clustering, right? So let's say if I'm testing a application, so like defect clustering, right? It refers to the non-uniform distribution of the defect throughout the application. You got this point, right? So let's say if we take a simple example, if I'm going to like some website, like let's say this Amazon, right? It's a e-commerce website. So if you take this particular website, right? So we have like n number of options, right? So first one is like home page. Then if I choose some product, like I'll be taken to the product page. So if I click on the product, like it will take me to the product description page. So if I click on add to cart, it will take me to the checkout page. And then like if I proceed to buy, like I'll be taken to the payment page and etc. Like there are like n number of pages and navigations are included as part of this particular e-commerce website. Okay, so what does defect clustering mean is like, so let's say, right, if I'm testing this particular application, if I'm getting there might be a chance like I get n number of errors in this particular page, right? It doesn't mean like other pages don't have the errors. So the defect clustering means like the defect is evenly, and the other context is like the defect, right, it won't be get evenly distributed within the project. Because if a developer is developing this particular application, right, let's say as I discussed, like we have the account page, orders page, wishlist page, right? It doesn't mean like this page should have 5 defect, this should have 5 defect, this should have 5 defect. That is not at all the case. There might be a case like the account page have hundreds of defects, whereas the order page has no defect, whereas the wishlist page has 5 defect. So you understand the context, right? So the defect clustering is nothing but the defect won't be evenly distributed within the project. So, and that is like out of control, right? So that is what one of the principle of the testing. So that it basically refers to the non-uniform distribution of the defect throughout the application. So everyone got the context of this particular text?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, so the next point is like a pesticide paradox. Okay, so let's say what does this pesticide paradox says is like, so usually we would have heard about the mutation and all, right? So in earlier days, like we'll be using the what is it, that all out for the mosquito repellent, right? But over a period of time, if we are using a same what is that all out, right? So it will fail to like eradicate the mosquito, right? At point of time, like they had mutated and they started living with that particular pesticide. So this condition is called as a pesticide paradox. Okay. So in similar way, like if the same test is if the same test, right, if it is repeated over again and again, right, eventually the same test of file will no longer able to find any defects. Okay, you got this context, right? So to overcome this so this condition is called as a pesticide paradox. Like let's say if one application is there and if I'm using the same test cases to test the same application, right, so definitely every time when I execute, the test cases will pass, and at particular point of time the test case fail to identify the defects with the particular uh, execution, right? So this condition is called as a pesticide paradox. So in order to avoid this condition, the test cases needs to be regularly reviewed and the revised. Got it? So it's nothing but like if a website is running in the production for a long term, so regularly like we need to review and revise the particular test cases, and we should add a like new and a different test conditions. So in that way we can avoid the pesticide paradox issue. You got it? So does anyone have any question with pesticide paradox? Because these all are interview questions. Some they will ask like what is defect clustering, what is pesticide paradox condition. Even they, like I was questioned for this particular topic. You got it, like, or you want to me to explain in
Yeah, Dinesh,
more on
I
the?
have a question here.
Yeah, yes, please.
So pesticide paradox, we can do like modification, right? We're basically doing modification
Yeah.
in test
So
case, right?
basically, like, what is your understanding from the pesticide paradox condition? Just tell me so that I can recorrect it.
Yeah, no, just I want to know that let's suppose you are means modifying the test case or something as per like scenario. So we can do till sorry, we can do in production also, or in which environment we can do till this modification.
Okay, got it. So basically, the production environment, right? Usually, the testers won't be having access to the production environment. Why? Because so let's say if you are testing a e-commerce application, right? So let's say if it is in a testing environment, so then definitely we will be having the mock payment procedures. So let's say if we are making a payment, right? So that time it won't have any financial impact with the client. Whereas in the production, if we are making some check, if you are making some payment or if you are placing some order, right, so definitely it will have an impact on the cost, because if it is a production is nothing but it's the application is alive now and the client and the customers are using it. So
Mhm.
like being a tester, right, we don't have any work at the production environment unless and otherwise, if they have a production, if they needed a production support, right, so those time like we'll be helping that. Okay, so usually
Mhm.
like we'll be testing this in the staging environment only. Okay, so this is like one thing. Yeah, I missed you, like please continue, like
Yeah, I
so
got
now
that
you
part. I got.
understand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right. Yeah.
Okay. So now, even if what I was about to tell is like, let's say there is one login page, and for that particular login page, right, you have like only three test cases. Like as I repeatedly told, like login with valid credential, login with invalid credential, try the forget password functionality. So these all are like three different test cases that I define, that I written for the execution. So every time when I execute, right, if I test all these three test cases, right, so over a period of time, right, there might be like any change, like something like sign up feature may come, and even at a sign up page, right, some input parameters may be vary. Let's say client may come up and say like I need a name as per other OTP authentication, something like that if they ask, right. So in these, like pesticide paradox is nothing but, let's say if you are using the same test cases to execute the same application over a period of time, right, that the test cases will behave like a pesticide paradox. Nothing but the test case won't be able to find out the failures. Okay, so in these cases we need to like change the approach of the testing. So by adding some additional test cases or whatever is it, so that it will help us to find the defect. So that is what this condition is. So pesticide paradise is a condition where our test case is not able to find the defect, and how to eradicate that is like by adding a new test cases or thinking in a different perspective and adding some additional test cases or changing the testing perspective, right? So that will be the solution for this pesticide paradox. Do you got it?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So does everyone clear with the defect clustering and pesticide paradox? Because other things, right? By seeing the title, you can able to understand. Whereas these two, right? It's by seeing the title, it's difficult to understand. If anyone have any question, please feel free to ask. At the end of the session, I'll be asking question to some random people. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the 6 point. So the testing is the context dependent. Okay, so what does it mean? Like the testing, right? It's done differently for the different context. So let's say if we are testing a banking application, right? So definitely like the safety context testing, right, will be given more preference when it is a banking application because it deals with money, right? So we want like that security testing, that hacking testing and all, right, will be giving more importance. So why I'm telling testing is context dependent is like, let's say if you are testing a e-commerce application, then our context of testing will be different. If you are testing a gaming application, then our point of testing will be different. If you are testing a database, then our context of testing will be different. So that's why we are saying like the testing is a context dependent. You got it right? So just because the testing is done differently for the different context, so that's why it is a context dependent. So we cannot follow the same testing approach for the all the applications. So depends on the application and the usage, the testing procedures and approach will vary. That is what it is. Okay, I guess you're clear with this point. So let's move on to the next point. So the absence of the error policy. Okay, so as I told earlier, like even if a defect are not found, the testing is not the proof of correctness. Got it? So let's say if I am testing application and if I moved it to the production, so until and otherwise there are no production issue, it's fine. But it doesn't mean like that application is a bug free. As a tester, we didn't find the defect, and the defect and then the application is went to go live or it is hosted in production successfully. But it doesn't mean like no error should appear on the production, because it may come, right, because all are human and human errors do happen, right? So nothing but 100% testing is not possible. That's what the context is. Okay, so these are the 7 software testing principles that you should have in a mind. So why I'm telling is like, so see, actually developers are developing the application, right? So why it is handovering to the testing? Because the developers may fail to test some functionality which they develop. That is why they have a separate testing team, and our job is mainly to test that application. So um, like what are the testing principle itself says like the 100% testing is not possible. So though if it is a simple application, we should be aware and we should put our 100% effort, and the main motive of tester is to find out the defect. Okay, so we should bring out the defect as much as possible and then get it fixed. So our main motive is to avoid the defects, but practically as the principle itself says that 100 percentage we can't deliver the product without any defect. There might be some defect or bug, so that in forthcoming sections we'll see like how to handle it, but this is what the principle of the software testing. So if anyone have any issue with respect to this understanding of the software testing principles, or if you have any difference of opinion, right, please feel free to discuss, or else we can wind up this session. Yeah, already we are learning like late by 10 minutes.
Yeah, I just
Okay.
have a question. Uh,
Yeah, sure.
and yeah, and going forward, like in the middle of the training or something like that, is there any way you'll be giving the test cases to us? Uh,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like going forward, right?
yeah,
Once I'm done with the topic of like what is test scenario and what is the test cases and how the requirement looks, right? So
mhm.
what is my plan is like I'll give you some assignment that like I'll be sharing some requirement to you, and based on that requirement, right, you should come up with some test scenario and test case creations. Okay.
Okay,
So
yeah,
that activity actually I have planned, and even at the end of the session, right, I'm planning to conduct some mock interview. Maybe that for one or two persons, right, we'll have it universally. For others, right, if you wish, will take it offline, but we'll have that at the end of the session so that you'll also have some confidence on that.
yeah,
Okay.
okay, yeah,
Yeah, definitely. So, yes, guys, thank you. Thanks for attending. If any doubts, right, I'll share the slide in WhatsApp group. If you have any doubts, so we can discuss that tomorrow, start of the session. Okay. Yeah.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Have a
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
bye.